Hey, everybody. We have a very special treat today. We have Brian Wansink, who is a researcher. He's done a lot of studies with food and kind of the psychological stuff behind food and why we make some of the choices that we make when it comes to food. And I've known about him for a while, but recently I discovered that he's also a musician. So I wanted to get into some of that, ask him some questions about that. But Brian, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Oh man, I love it. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a really cool surprise to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so I want to focus mostly on the music stuff, but just for people that don't know you and the work that you do, can you kind of just maybe briefly explain how you got into doing the work that you've done over
Sure,
the years?
sure. So for 30 years of my life, what I focused on was what are the unconscious things behind us that influence our choices about food, how much we eat, what we eat, how we like it, and stuff like this. And it's resulted in, oh geez, thousands of studies that have done on these sorts of things. And although maybe most of them you might not be familiar with because they're really really boring, um, what you might be familiar with is some of the things that happen because of them. So the dietary guidelines and eventually the My Plate, the little thing that you see kind of on all your stuff. That started off when I was with the government, and the My Plate happened with the next administration. The fact that glasses are getting narrower and plates are getting a little bit smaller, that's because of my stuff. The fact that now you have a healthier Happy Meal if you or your kids go there, that's our stuff. The Smarter Lunchroom program, which is in a lot of schools, the changes in Google cafeterias and stuff like this is based on all this stuff that we did for research.
So is this something that you were always interested in at a young age? How did you get into this?
Well, I grew up in Iowa, and in Iowa, everybody you know is related to the food industry in some ways. Either they grow food as a farmer, they work in a production plant or something like this. So I've always just been really interested in food. But then more about the psychology behind why we do what we do, because most people think, well, I'm a rational, reasonable person who knows everything he does or she does. It's like, no, we're not. I mean, most of us can't answer why we ate what we ate for breakfast. And I think that always fascinated me because I think I'm kind of a spacey person to begin with. So since I could never answer why I ate what I ate for lunch, I thought it would be good to study what around me might be kind of bumping me to get a sandwich rather than a salad or a turkey sandwich instead of a chicken sandwich.
Right. And that's what would attracted me to a lot of your work because like I was saying, it wasn't like preachy, like here you have to follow this diet, you can't eat this, you can't eat that. It was more like, all right, here are some decisions you might be making, but you're not really aware that they're going on. And here are some steps you can take to, fix that. And I feel like you don't see that very much. It's interesting. It's kind of tying in like the psychology into what you're eating, which I really was fascinated by.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of finger shaking that goes on and say, hey, there's a lot of stuff that influences you, and you can make little changes in the margin that can make a big difference. I mean,
Right.
that's a powerful message. And it's also a way to get our kids to eat better. I got three middle school daughters, and it's been really useful in bumping them one way or the other, without them realizing it.
Right. Yeah, no, I love it. I love your work. So, like I was saying, I was doing some research on you and I saw that you are a saxophone player and you play in a cover band. So, I want to get more into that because I feel like that's an area that a lot of people might not know about when it comes to you. So, can you maybe just take us through your early life and how you had got introduced to, playing music and what kind of stuff you were
Yeah,
listening
yeah,
to?
yeah. So I grew up in western Iowa, like in the corner of Iowa and South Dakota, and I was in band. I played French horn in band. Went to college, played a baritone horn and French horn also for 1 year in college, and really decided I didn't like it. I didn't like the ensemble business of playing what was written on the page. Too short of an attention span, I guess. I didn't do anything. Then I went off and I got my PhD, and I was as a professor up in northern New Hampshire, little town of Hanover, about I don't know, 1,500 people or whatever. And I didn't have a girlfriend, and I had a good friend there, and he was an economics professor. And he didn't have a girlfriend, so every weekend we just kind of get together and we'd drink beer and talk about music. And he played the guitar, and so he started then he kind of played the guitar, after a certain number of beers. And I'd kind of say, gee, this is just too weird listening to some guy sitting on the couch there playing the guitar to me. So I learned how to play the saxophone. And because I could read music pretty good from my earlier days, I picked it up okay quick. I mean, good enough to play rock music so that I could play fill notes behind him. I could play some whole notes. Eventually I could find what key he was in. And God, I loved it. And I after dinner time, almost every night, I'd spend 2 or 3 hours just playing wrong notes. And so then eventually, this is within about 6 months, I found this band. It was a great cover band. It did all the kind of Blues Brothers, the Commitment sort of song, the 70s, 60s R&B stuff. It was called Heart Full of Soul. Okay, cool name. You know, it's kind of a takeoff from the old. It's the Yardbirds, the old sort.
Oh, okay.
And I joined it, but the cool thing about this is like an 11-piece band. It had a full horn section. Everything was charted out. And it was crazy. They were really good, practicing a good theater. And I suck, really. But I realized they had interviewed a number of saxophone players. And I realized that the only thing I had going for me was I could read music, and I didn't have an attitude. And they had interviewed a ton of horn players who were like, I'm going to show you how it's going to be. You're going to give your solo to me. And I think I got it because of that. And it was, God, it's just a great band. But I was kind of, a few minutes before this interview, I was digging through some stuff to see if I could find some things. But we all dressed like the Blues Brothers. And I thought nice. I found a hat. I thought I found a hat that I played with black glasses. I thought I found a hat, but then actually, I know this isn't the hat because it looks more like something Mary Poppins would wear. So.
That's awesome. I actually just saw that movie for the first time because I've been home more during the coronavirus quarantine. So I've been getting, up to date on all the movies I haven't seen yet. And I saw the Blues Brothers for the first time like 2 weeks ago. It's taken me a while.
Yeah, that's great. Watch The Commitments too, the movie The Commitments. I'm a big horn section lover, and that's a cool movie. It's about kind of a recession that's going on, I think, in Ireland, and this group of people, they don't really have anything else going for them. They pull together a band, and it rocks.
What's that called again?
It's called The Commitments.
The Commitments.
Like being afraid of a commitment, that sort of thing.
Awesome.
So I played in this band, and then I've gone on. I've been in tons of others. I've been in like those jazz fern bar bands that play all of Fitzgerald music, and I've been in this really cool big band that was all World War II veterans who played in World War II. But what happened? They were dying off. This is the late '90s, and so they would replace it with guests. And I played second tenor in one of those. And God, it is. I tell you, it is just so awesome because you're playing with all these old guys who just are virtuosos. And I mean, they move in slow motion, and they sit down and they are honking like you can't believe it. It's cool. It's really, really neat.
Didn't John Coltrane start out in the Navy band? Wasn't that one of his first performances?
I think you might be right. I think or Army band or something like that. And I know Jimi Hendrix was a paratrooper for, I don't know, a short period of time.
Right.
And it's also really cool because we'd be playing these big gigs, and we'd be playing like the Glenn Miller music and stuff like this. And you'd see the second we'd start, we'd be there and we'd be getting ready and stuff, and it'd be the 16-piece band. And you'd see all these like really old couples, 80s, whatever, just barely shuffling around. And once we hit that first note, 2/3 of them were on the dance floor, doing aerials. And oh God, it's so cool, Mike. It gives me shivers to think of it.
That's awesome. So when you were in high school, you said you were doing a little bit of French horn. What kind of music were you listening to, like in your early years?
Yeah. Zeppelin. I love Zeppelin. Actually, it's kind of funny. My 15-year-old daughter. I think I probably got her in the wrong path. I told her about 20 minutes ago. I said, I got to go downstairs. I'm doing this cool thing, this music thing. She goes, oh, hey, why don't you wear a Pink Floyd tie?
I think if she knows who Pink Floyd is, I think she's on the right path.
Maybe right, man. Yeah. So I really, really love Zeppelin. And then I think after when I went to college, I really liked Bruce Springsteen. I'm a big fan of Bruce Springsteen. And then all of a sudden, there's all the big horn sounds of the '70s that like Clarence Clemens had, and then you had uh, you had the Rolling Stones, and Pink Floyd had the same guy Jay somebody, and who played his stuff. And so that was really cool because it made the saxophone cooler than just running scales, which they didn't move me as much as hearing uh, Bobby Keys growl out an entire Brown Sugar solo, using just using just a D blues scale. I mean, that's powerful when you can kind of put chills on somebody and you're only playing 5 notes.
So when you had started hanging out with your friend who you said played guitar, and then you started
Yeah.
picking up the saxophone, were you aware of like, this rock music that had the saxophone at that time as well? Did that kind of like make you want to learn the saxophone, or was it more hanging out with your friend that played guitar?
Oh yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. It's mainly just to hang out with him. You know what I mean? I don't want to generalize to everybody, but I think a lot of people like you learn to play music because it's kind of maybe something to do, or a way to express yourself, or a way to do something kind of that you think is cool, or you think's you, or it's part of your identity. But you join bands because you hope to meet lots of people, and or girls, or whoever you want to meet. And I think I learned to play just because I liked hanging out with him, and it was about 700 times cooler to hang out and play whole notes than it was to just sit there and kind of go, "Good job,
Right.
yeah, that was a good song, yeah."
So the first band that you started playing in was in New Hampshire?
Yeah, it was. I think it's White River Junction, Vermont, which is on the border. Yeah,
Oh,
so
okay.
played that, and I played a hard rock, got in a hard rock quartet when I was up there. Played this one thing. Went overseas to the Netherlands for a year. After that, I was a professor. I didn't get tenure, is what they call it, when I was up at Dartmouth. So I went overseas for a year or so and played in a Dutch funk band.
Sounds awesome.
Only one guy in the band spoke English, so it was just kind of
Oh, there you go.
that was really neat, and those are cool. And those are cool gigs. I mean, remember one time we did one. It's like on a canal boat, like a big. And those can be pretty big. And it was like a bar or club or something on this canal boat. And I remember playing, and short, small stage, and the 5 of us. And the other guys, 3 other guys were Dutch, but they were from Suriname, which had been a Dutch colony. And I'm looking, and it's really dark. I'm looking, and there's somebody like 2 tables down who's like shooting up with a hypo. And I'm like, nothing I had seen before. And I was probably in my mid 30s. And then I was also at this place too, and there was this person who, very, very, very attractive person there, and a very attractive woman. And one of the guy who spoke English said, "Just so you know, that's not a woman." I'm like, "Oh, okay." This is such cool gigs. Those are in gigs. Then I moved to Philadelphia, and so I really like rock music much more than jazz, because to play jazz you need to be good. To play rock music, if you just have a good sense of rhythm, and you can play fills as a horn player, and you make the singer and the lead guitar look good.
Right. You could survive in rock.
Yeah, you always have gigs. I was trying to find a band. I was living as a professor in Philadelphia at the time. I was looking for a band, and I found this place was advertising for I think a lead guitar player for a Stones tribute band. It was called, I can't remember. I think it might be called Brown Sugar or something. I can't remember anymore. Yeah. And so I remember when I went to trap for that, and I'm talking to the guy, and I said, I know you're looking for a guitar player, but about a quarter of the songs they played in the 60s and 70s had horn players in them. Yes, Bobby Keys, Ernie Watts. How about it?
Right.
And the guy, he says, yeah, he says, why don't you try it on Thursday? And so I said, great, give me an address. I said, can I bring anything like any, like any beer, any pop? And being from Midwest, we say pop. And the guy goes, and the guy pauses. There's just nothing. And I said, oh yeah. Maybe he thinks I said he doesn't know what pop means. So I said, or maybe not pop, but I can bring some Coke or something. And it goes. He goes, yeah. He says, no. He says, we have plenty of pot.
At first, I thought you said pot. It's funny that you just said that.
No. I said pop. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I went there. Showed up this place, and I think this must have been like the guys might have been maybe mid-40s, but the guy, I think, kind of trust fund types. Lived in this incredible stone house in the back of a mansion.
Mm-hmm.
And I knocked on the door, and I take a buddy with me. And I knocked on the door, and these guys all looked like the Stones. They had the haircut the same. They had that same sort of that super, that BMI of 16 look, and it was amazing. I tried out, and and they never called me back. But I'm still waiting.
So you never know, right? Never say never. Keith Richards actually lives like a half hour from me. He lives in Wilton, Connecticut, or either New Canaan or Wilton. But I teach a lot of lessons in that area, and there's a grocery store that I'll go to on my break sometime to get food. And apparently, he's like a regular there. But so I still haven't bumped into him yet. But every time I'm there, I'm waiting to see if I'll bump into him. Him and Christopher Walken, they both are apparently regulars at that.
Wow, you're kidding me! That's right. Well, take a cowbell with you next time you go, and you'll summon.
There you go. Yeah, I'm sure he's never heard that joke, right?
Oh
yeah. So the first cover band that you said you were in, what kind of covers were you guys doing?
Yeah, that was all R&B stuff. So the Mustang Sally, all the Stevie Wonder stuff, all the Motown things.
Any Tower of Power at all?
No, but we had a good horse. Good horn section. We had a really good trumpet player and a solid trombone player, so we could have. But everything had to be danceable. I mean, if people weren't dancing within just 30 seconds of starting the song, it went out of this.
Right.
And I think the only song that we played that nobody danced to was, I think, On the Dark Side of the Street or something. And I don't know why we played that. But we had 11 people in the band, including the keyboard player, and we had 4 singers, including one dedicated singer. If you have 4 singers, you can nail almost any song and get it close enough to the original.
How many were in the horn section?
3.
So you're doing tenor, and then there's a trombone and a trumpet?
Yeah. And then sometimes a keyboard player can complement, or they can cover for one of the horn players if they're good enough, if somebody's not there and stuff.
That's perfect, though. If you're going to have 3, that's the perfect 3 to have, right? You got the low end for the trombone, you got the high end with the trumpet, and you're covering the middle of the, the harmonies.
Yeah, and what they did here, I mean, this is just brilliant. The keyboard player happened to be like one of the local high school band directors. She charted out, she took the best known hit for any of those things, for any of those songs. Like, let's say Proud Mary, she'd take Ike and Tina Turner's Proud Mary, not CCR's Proud Mary. She'd take Ike and Tina's Proud Mary. She'd chart it out note for note, and you couldn't play anything that wasn't a note. And the trombone player liked to noodle every once in a while. And they're like, 6 people just stared until he stopped.
That's hilarious. You'll appreciate this. The high school, I went to an arts high school, and the teacher there hated when people would noodle. And if you were known as being like a noodler, he would basically, at the end of the school year, whoever was the biggest noodler, he would give them a big container of noodles at the end of the school year for being the top noodler of the year.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's good.
So you when you're doing this stuff too, are you playing mostly by ear? Is that kind of what you do?
Well, what's nice though, I mean, with some, that's why this one band was great because again, it's charted out, and I think with the Fern Bar bands and stuff like this, they'll give you the music so that you know what the chord changes are and stuff like this. So you can do that. But then a lot of the other stuff, I played in a really super cool band short time ago for a number of years that that played a lot of the similar music, but it also played a lot of a kind of the really up tempo stuff, like Marie Marie playing guitar on the backwards in my car, songs like that, or like I'm just knee deep in the blues, like by the Derailers, really really punchy stuff like that. But it had a lead singer who I tell you, I mean, he was a baritone. And so we'd play some of the Neil Diamond stuff, the really punchy stuff like Brother Loves Traveling Salvation Show or Cherry, things like this. But the guy had this crazy, crazy, like weirdo charisma. Like, who could just do that, who would chat up the crowd. He could turn any song. And I mean, and I think he's the kind of guy who like all women, want to be with, and all guys secretly hate, but they want to be him.
Yeah. Yeah, plenty of guys like that.
Yeah, and I think so. I couldn't, and when I was playing, I couldn't take my eyes off of him because he's just so amazing to watch on stage. And again, every song people were dancing to it. Just there was crescendos. He made everybody play better because you don't want to just mail it in for Neil Diamond.
Right. That's the mark though of a great leader, right? If it makes everybody else in the band want to play better. I mean, that's the best you can ask for from a leader in a band.
Yeah. There's a little bit of the ego thing that turns some people off. I mean, I was fine with it, but
yeah, that can definitely be a thing. Yeah, I mean, like you said, that's why you got your first performance opportunity, because you were a cool guy. You didn't have an ego about yourself, right? I mean, that goes a long way. I mean, especially in a professional setting, you encounter so many people that are so full of themselves, and they're kind of a drag to be around at a certain point. So, I mean, being a nice guy can really go a long way in this kind of business.
Yeah, being a nice guy or playing the bass. Yeah.
Bass, yeah, that helps too, right? Everyone needs bass. So like if you're taking a solo, are you doing, like, do you know theory? Like are you playing by ear, or are you following?
No, usually just like some of the basic stuff. So like I was working on last night I was working on the song Old Time Rock and Roll. And so I took the sax players, roughly transcribed what Alto Reed played for his, and I'll work on that and hope to get it close. And I'm not good enough, so oftentimes just trying to hit a pentatonic scale. That's one of the three major chords in the song. I'll try to do that. Yeah.
So you're transposing from alto to tenor?
Yeah. That's what I do.
That's got to be a hassle. What, do you have to go down a fourth to do that?
Well, I'll write it out, and then I'll just play whatever notes I've written out. So if he's playing an E flat and it's not an E flat for me, I don't even know what it is. Okay, I just know that I'm supposed to be playing a B.
Right. Do you have any favorite saxophone solos on rock songs?
I like the big sound, and the things. I think a lot of the guys that I like aren't, I don't know, they're probably the people's choice, but the critics' bane, that sort of thing. I mean, I love like Clemens. So this is Bobby Keys. I don't know if he played the sax for Stones. He played like the saxophone solo in The Wanderer and a bunch of the 60s sounds. But just really, I don't think he knew any theory. I don't know that I don't know how good he was even reading music, but just a huge personality and just played the saxophone like it was a guitar. And I really like that. And probably not as virtuoso as maybe Clarence Clemens, but that's fine. And then there's a guy who I think is really overlooked. He played for George Thorogood for a number of years. His name's Hank Carter. And I know the first house I bought was on Carter Street, and I was probably willing to pay too much for the place just so I could be in a street named after my saxophone idol.
But I want to get to know some of your music preferences a little bit more. So I'm just going to name a band. I want to see if you have a favorite album. Okay. So do you have a favorite Rolling Stones album?
it might be Brown Sugar. I like Happy. I like Brown Sugar. Yeah, I like some of those. Yeah. I like oh, can't you hear me knocking? Oh, I can't think of the album right now.
Beggar's Banquet.
No, it's a light. I think it's a live. Well, I like
We'll
others.
look into it. Are you a Beatles fan as well?
No.
Not a Beatles fan. Interesting. Yeah, I feel like I'm more of a Beatles guy than a Rolling Stones person. I feel like it's one or the other. It's very rare that you meet somebody that's like really into both.
Yeah.
How about Pink Floyd? I know you mentioned Pink Floyd. Is
Yeah,
Dark Side? Is that your favorite?
Seen them a couple times. I've seen most of these bands a couple times. Yeah.
You've seen them? Wow. What year did you? What was the first year that you saw them?
It seems to me like it might have been in high school. The last time I saw them might have been 90, 93 maybe, or something like that. That's the most recent time I've seen them.
Was it with both of them or just Roger Waters?
Just Roger Waters, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I think he's still doing some stuff now, actually. I mean, well, not now, obviously, with coronavirus, but I know he was doing a little bit of touring.
Yeah,
He was doing the Animal. I think he was doing some stuff off the Animals album.
Yeah, this one had a floating pig, and it's up in
Right?
Florida.
Yeah, the pig. Yeah, yeah, the anti-Trump and the pig and all that.
I think Dark Side is probably because it's got the most sax work in it. I think and Us and Them. Whoa, 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 whoa,
Oh, beautiful! That's a beautiful song, and Money too, right?
I'm sorry. Money,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, there's a lot of sax on that album. I never really thought of that.
Yeah, it's the same guy too. I can't think of the guy's name right now, like Palmer or something like that. I don't know. And, a ton of these saxophone players that have done really, really iconic solos. They've done one, and then
Right.
nothing after that.
Yeah, it's amazing how many amazing musicians there are that people have just never heard of. It's crazy.
Yeah, or sax isn't even their main. It's not even their main instrument.
Right.
They pound out something. I think the Jerry Rafferty's the guy who played the Jerry Rafferty song. There's a story behind him too, but it's not.
And that's like one of the most famous sax songs, I feel like, of all
Oh
time.
yeah.
Nobody knows who that guy is. It's crazy.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Do you have any favorite albums just of all time? Albums that you always go back to?
Almost all the Springsteens or the first three Springsteen albums I really, really like. I like the early George Thorogood stuff. Moving on over. I love first. I love like all the first four Led Zeppelin albums. God, I really love them.
Those you have a favorite Led Zeppelin if you had to pick one?
Well, probably number 4, but I like both. I don't like number 3 very well, but I like 1 and 2 because it's really super bluesy and geez.
3 is more like folky, acousticy, right?
Yeah. And 1 and 2 got. And the thing is, I think what's so cool about their first album is here you have a band who they're kind of known a little bit here and there, and they were good. They're great musicians. But all of a sudden, the day before the album comes out, most people didn't really know them. That album comes out in '69. I cannot imagine what people must have thought when they heard the album come out. I just
right.
can't. I can't imagine people even breathing if they listen to that because it's like nothing else being played.
Right.
Oh, jeez, it's crazy, man. I love it.
When you look back at some of those albums and the years that they were made, it's amazing to think how ahead of their time some of those bands were, like Led Zeppelin, obviously, and then even like the first Black Sabbath album, I think, was also either in '69 or '70. And I hear that, I'm just like, people probably couldn't handle this back then,
Oh, I love you. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, you're coming from that into the Black Sabbath.
Oh, that's cool.
Do you have a favorite concert that you've ever seen?
I don't know. I've seen tons and tons of bands in concert. I guess what amazes. Yeah, I'll tell you one. And this is. I'll tell you one, and you're not going to believe it. You're not going to believe it, but this just proves the amazingness of music. So my first job out of college, I was living in Amarillo, Texas, and I didn't have a car or anything. I took a bus back to work, I saw where this guy uh, was playing, and his name is Paul Davis, and you probably don't recognize the name. I mean, most people wouldn't, but he had a song at, that is kind of a hit called "You Go Crazy." You go crazy, and it's kind of a slow kind of song. He had done some other songs like 65 Love Affair, We Weren't Going Nowhere. Na, 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 na.
Okay.
It really kind of that kind of sort of thing. And he was playing. I kid you, I kid you not, Mike. He's playing at like the local Bonanza or Sirloin Stockade, something like that, like at nighttime. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so I got my roommate and who had a car, and I said, "Hey, let's go check this guy out." I said, "It should be fun." We went there, and it is 20 people sitting at sirloin stockade sort of chairs, little four tops, and it's kind of got a little stage, but there's a salad bar over there. And this is crazy. And this guy plays, and he nails every song to the point that for an hour and a half, I couldn't take my eyes off of anything going on because he had his mojo working. The playing 30 years of places like this, he had timing down. God, I just it almost gives me shivers here to think of how he nailed something. Whereas before we went, I could think of two songs he played, and I think I think both of us it was like a $5 cover charge or something, and that included a drink that they paid for.
Well, his name is Paul Davis, you said?
Yeah, Paul Davis, and you go crazy when I look in your eyes. I go crazy.
Hmm.
And he'd also written a ton of other songs that other people had played. That
Hmm.
so that's not like seeing Springsteen. It's not like seeing Zeppelin. It's not like seeing I don't know Pink Floyd. It's not like sitting in the second row of the '57 George Thorogood concert I've seen. Those are all cool. This was neat because it showed me that one guy with one guitar in Sterling Stockade can do magic.
Hmm. A lot of times too, in sort of a smaller environment like that, like you were saying, there were 20 people there. A lot of times that can have more of an impact too, because it seems like it's so much more intimate, so the experience is completely different as opposed to being in an arena with like 50,000 other people there. When it's just 20 people, it's a completely different kind of experience.
Yeah. That's right. Have you played in a lot of the smaller places as well as some of the bigger places? Do you have a preference?
Um, It's tough to say. It really depends, I guess. I think for jazz, most of the time I prefer a smaller, more intimate environment. I think jazz in general just kind of works better in that kind of
Yeah,
environment. But,
yeah, that's true.
if you're doing more rocking stuff, like I was in a progressive rock band for a while and we did a lot of tours down south and we had a couple of shows that were, a little bit bigger. And I felt like, stuff like that, stuff that rocks a little bit harder, that tends to gravitate towards more of a bigger environment. But you can have great experiences with either.
Yeah, that's true. That you raise a good point because with the jazz, I think it's got to be it's got a smaller venue kind of works. So when you talk about jazz, actually my favorite album one of my favorite albums I never mentioned was Asia and Gaucho
Oh,
by
yeah.
Steely
Oof.
Dan. And Asia's probably listened to that one, but I tried out for a Steely Dan tribute band.
Oh, those guys are no joke.
Yeah, well, because about a third of their songs had horn players, and often different. They didn't tour with anybody; they just had session musicians come in, and I made the cut for that, and we found a trumpet player, and there ended up being a fight in the band about bringing in these doggone horns, and which I guess one of the other guys at least didn't want to do. And the band, I joined the band and never played a gig because it broke up within a week.
Oh, bummer. That would have been amazing too. Steely Dan's music is incredible, especially from a music theory perspective. Crazy stuff going on in a lot of those songs. Those guys were master writers. I don't know who did a lot of the writing. I don't know if it was mostly was it Donald Fagen that wrote most of it?
Yeah, he performed most of it, or Walter Becker. Yeah, I don't know, but actually, we were doing somewhere out there on a vacation in New York City, where we drove back. We drove by the college they went to, just kind of because I liked them so much. I just kind of wondered, what was the hall like that they played their first gig. What was the whatever like? And they played Chevy Chase a little bit too.
Really? Okay. That's wild. Do you have a favorite song on Asia?
Yeah, I really like Deacon Blues.
Yeah, me too. That's my favorite too.
Yeah, and I think on Gaucho, I like all the songs in Gaucho, but I think it's uh, maybe Babylon Sisters and Hey 19, but Babylon
Mm,
Sisters because
nice.
again they all have horns in. So
Hmm. Yeah, that's amazing. All right, I have some other questions too, just kind of like a speed round of just some different questions to kind of get to know you a little bit more beyond the music stuff. Do you have a favorite place that you've traveled to?
yeah, I think probably I really I like Norway a lot. I went on sabbatical there about 4 or 5 years ago, and I just thought that was really cool. Just like insane beauty that you can't imagine, and super livable. I also like I've been to Transylvania before, the Transylvanian Alps in Romania, and I really like that. But it's a little more difficult of a travel than Norway in terms of a lot of what we're used to. But super beautiful there, super beautiful.
I saw a documentary one time on the prisons in Norway, and it looked like a hotel. It was crazy. Have you ever seen any of those documentaries? Yeah, they're
No.
interesting. It doesn't even look like it's real. It looks like it's like they're just making it up. It's crazy. Um, how
No.
about movie? Do you have a favorite movie?
Well, I think my favorite funny movie in the world, and you'd be able to guess what it is, I bet, but this is
Oh,
Spinal Tap. I
oh,
love
there you go. I was gonna say Blues Brothers, but Spinal Tap. I mean,
it.
yeah, classic.
Yeah, and it's still probably the only movie in the world I've seen more than 3 times. I bet I've seen it 20 or 30 times. I love it. I don't know if you have all sorts of musicians who like this website, but I had a cool experiences when I was like 32 years old, and I was again as a professor, and there was this quartet, as a string quartet that was in residence at Dartmouth, where I was teaching for the year, and it was called the Franciscans. Okay, and they say the definition of a string quartet is. Um, well, it's a good violin player, a bad violin player, a person who wishes they played violin, and a person who hates violins.
It's good. I
So,
haven't heard that one. I'll add that one to the list of
oh
musicians.
yeah, yeah. I'd heard this group before, and I kind of, and then I liked them, and there's one, and there's one of the girls who played, and I was kind of interested in, and I was kind of interested in, and so I did this thing. I invited 3 of my friends, and I said, we're gonna have this big dinner party, 4 of you and 3 of my friends, and I'm gonna make something, and we're gonna watch the movie Spinal Tap, okay? And my buddies are saying, Brian, clearly we know you're an idiot, but now you're a real idiot, because these are very high class musicians, and
Hmm.
we're gonna be laughing at the stupid cucumber jokes, and they're gonna just be kind of just saying, look, let me jump out the window. Well, so we watch this movie, and 3 of the 4 of them are just entranced in the movie, the whole thing. They're not always laughing, but they're entranced. And afterwards, it was over, and I was serving dessert to people, and this one of the women there says, she says, that is exactly what life is like on the road with the string quartet. She said the dynamics, the frustrations of saying, I told them Spinal Tap before Puppet Show. I mean,
Hmm.
all the just the experiences of feeling of getting dissed by the better group walking through the lobby.
Right.
And I thought that was just so cool when she said that. Um, and being, I guess, a wannabe real musician, I think maybe that's why I'm also drawn to that movie.
That's cool. The worlds were colliding: classical music and Spinal Tap. Right.
Yeah.
I gotta put you on hold. I gotta use the bathroom real quick. All right. I'll be right back. Yeah, play us something.
Yeah. So,
feel free to play anything if you want. I'd love to hear it.
that's kind of so one of the nice things about the COVID thing is that it makes it a lot easier to kind of play a lot,
Right.
So it's really easy to just pick it up and if you want to play for 20 minutes or 10 minutes
Right.
or so. It's really, and I often do this if there's a phone call and I don't need a prep for it, but it's like maybe it's 10 minutes away or something like that. It's like, well, I could look at email for 10 minutes. Or I could work on, I could work on slow, or I could play along with.
Right. Yeah, it's great. It's weird having time to do stuff now.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone's adjusting to that. It's like, wow, I'm not just on the go 24/7 now. What do I do with myself?
Yeah. Well, I used to in my office. I used to keep a little electronic saxophone. Let's see if I can find it.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
What do they call that? A EOE, right?
Well, this is a Casio, and I bought this like about 25 years ago, and so it's really, and so I just. And it's starting to get a little bit. We're getting a lot of overtones, but still, it's good enough to actually have in my office. Sometimes if I was working late, I might take it out and play it for a little bit. So.
Is it the same fingerings as a regular tenor sax?
Well, it's a very good question you asked. There's a transpose button. So since tenor sax is a B flat instrument, it's 2 half steps away from what this is normally in a C. So you just hit the transpose button twice, and it goes up 2 half steps. So.
Oh, that's a concert instrument.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Nice.
Yeah. So it's a really it was a nice way to play. Back if I was going to be working really, really late and I was kind of feeling burned out and feeling sorry for myself and feeling.
Can you plug headphones into that?
Yeah, I never have, because you can always also just turn the volume down super, super low.
Oh, great. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That works out nice. So I think we covered most of the music stuff I wanted to ask you, but I want to tie it up with just a couple of food questions because I do have some things I want to ask you about that. So one of the things that I'm always curious about with anybody that I follow in the food world is I'm curious what your lifestyle habits are when it comes to food. So do you have any sort of diet that you like to typically follow?
Yeah. So I'm really lucky. My wife went to culinary school at Le Cordon Bleu. So we really in France. So she's really an amazing chef. And so if I kind of was left to my own devices, and it would just be really, really easy to just overdo things. And I find that there's some really good. I mean, and all the whole thing about mindless eating is what can you do to set your environment so you don't overeat, but you don't feel like you're on a diet, so you don't feel like tortured and things like this. And I found that an easy self-diagnosis for me is that with a great cook, I want to go back for seconds and thirds and fourths and fifths, okay? And I eat 1 or 2 helpings, 1 or 2 servings, and then I go, I want more, but I can't. Then it's just gonna come out later that day. I'm gonna be standing over a pint carton of ice cream that night because I felt like I denied myself. So one of the things I found is, and actually I found this in research, so it's just I just confirmed myself, is that if we found that with guys, any food that's served not off the table, okay, like family style, but it's served off of a serving table, it's served off the stove and plated where it gets to you, even if you can have seconds and thirds, the typical guy is about 29%, eats 29 to 30% less of any food that's served off of the serving table or off the stove. And since that was one of my big problems, I want seconds and thirds and fourths because this stuff's so good. We should make sure that anything that has too many calories that I don't want to overeat, that I'm in danger of overeating, keep off there. And so it's not a diet, but it's just a behavior that enables me to not overeat, and then I can still have dessert. And also, I think if you know, if a person is a fairly kind of impulsive type of person, which I have learned that I am, the last thing you want, is having any snacks nearby. So I just say, no, I'm not gonna have any snacks, and I purposefully put them in a cupboard that's off limits to me and stuff. And if anybody leaves them out, I finish it like that.
That's one of the things you said in one of your videos that I started doing. You were talking about how if you have certain snacks in the cupboard or something, right, there's always going to be that temptation to want them. But if you just don't have them there at all, it's not like you're going to get up and leave the house just to get a snack, you know?
Yeah. Or if you have them in a cupboard where you say, I don't open this cupboard, and we have one like that, and I've got 3 girls, and so they'll get stuff out of there and put it back in, but I just kind of go, well, it's not my cupboard, and so I've never tempted to even open it anymore.
So as far as diets go, I'm curious what your opinion is on dieting, because it seems like I've studied a lot of different diets, and it kind of seems like the $1 million question with diets right now is, do you eliminate meat or do you eliminate carbs? Because a lot of the vegans and vegetarians think that the carbs are the way to go, and then you have these, paleo or ketogenic people that say that the carbs are the enemy, right? You want to have meat and low carb. What's your opinion when it comes to stuff like that?
If you're looking at the old the people making things from scratch, you're not looking at processed food, but you're looking at unprocessed food. They're probably both okay. But unfortunately, we don't live in a world of unprocessed food. And in a world of unprocessed food, probably the best thing I think that a person can do, if you're not disciplined enough to start, making things from scratch, is to say, the easiest rule of thumb is I can eat all the meat and all the vegetables and all the fruit I want. But let me stop there. Because once you start saying, well, that breakfast cereal says it's healthy, and that woman's picture on the cover, she looks healthy, I'll include that. All of a sudden, there's nothing, the whole, everything else is out the window. So we did this really super cool study, this is a number of years ago, where we went up to like 230 homes in Syracuse, New York, which is kind of upstate New York. And we did a bunch of stuff. One of the things we did was we weighed everybody in the family, and we took photos of their kitchen, of cupboards, of everything. And one of the things we found, we were trying to, in one of the studies, we tried to correlate what visible foods relate to their weights. And we found that, if you have cookies sitting out and anywhere in the kitchen, if they're visible anywhere in the kitchen, on average, you'll weigh 8 to 10 pounds more than a neighbor next door that doesn't have cookies visible. But cookies aren't really the problem. The big problem was breakfast cereal. That a house that had breakfast cereal sitting visible anywhere in the thing, it could be on the table, it could be tucked in the counter, it could be anywhere. On average, the main person in the house we talked to weighed 20 pounds more. Maybe it's 18 or maybe it's 22. It was around 20 pounds, 18 to 20 pounds more than the person in the very next house. Identically the same people who didn't have it sitting out. And I think the thing is, you can walk by that breakfast cereal and it's got kind of a health halo around it because it says it's 7 vitamins and minerals.
Right.
It says it's low. It says it's whole grain. It's got this really super attractive family in the front that's all kind of lean and healthy. Mm-hmm. And so you kind of go, sounds good. I could use a handful. And you take a handful, take another handful 4 hours later, and you do that every day. And that handful is about 100 calories. An extra 100 calories every day, and you're going to weigh about 8 pounds more in a year.
It's interesting too, because I feel like with a lot of people, at least their perception of cereal is that cereal doesn't really have the image of being an unhealthy kind of food the same way that like cookies or something would. So I feel like a lot of people sort of trick themselves. And it's interesting for me because I grew up in the 90s, and back then people considered cereal healthy. Everyone was saying drink milk. My grandma would always say you got to drink a lot of milk, you know, and then you see these fads kind of adjust as the years go on. So I could totally see how somebody can kind of be conditioned to think that cereal is kind of like almost like a healthy snack in a way.
Yeah. Well, that's a great insight you have too, because one of the things we were kind of puzzled with is when we looked at how, because you'd say, well, oh, candy, that's what makes you fat. Well, one of the things we looked at is we looked at houses that had candy in them, that had candy visible on the table. And you say, wow, man, those people must just be balloons compared to their neighbors. Oh. Like I think on average, there wasn't even really any statistical difference. It might have been a pound or two difference, but it wasn't even statistical. And they kind of go, what is going on that houses can have candy sitting on their thing, but not weigh any more than neighbors, but cereal makes them so big. And I think it's exactly what you're talking about. Cereal has this big health halo, so it doesn't hurt you to eat it. Candy, yeah, we got our eye on you. We can't overeat our candy because we know that's bad for us. So those people are better monitoring or controlling what they do.
And I think it's the way they market it too, because you'll even see certain things. I'm not sure if I'm correct in this, but like a certain brand of Cheerios, they would say like it's good for your heart or something. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think heart healthy. Yeah, I think they're specific because it's whole grain. I think they're kind of stretching things. They're saying, well, if whole fiber is good, then
Right. I remember seeing Frosted Flakes one time, and on the box it said with vitamin D, as if like vitamin D is naturally occurring in Frosted Flakes. But they would never do that with candy. You're never going to see like a Kit Kat bar that says, good for your heart or something like that. So, maybe it's the way people have been conditioned.
Cures cancer.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So let me ask you this. I want to get to know some of your food preferences. So I'm very curious. If you could just have your ideal eating day, what's your ideal breakfast meal that you like to have?
Oh, I think assuming I could kind of have an infant.
Go crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to go to a breakfast buffet. Okay, but it'd have to include huge cinnamon rolls with tons and tons and tons of frosting on. They have to have, and then it'd probably be steak and rare steak and an egg omelet besides, and then a Diet Coke or Diet Pepsi because I don't like coffee. I love Diet Pop.
You don't drink coffee. Interesting.
Never have. Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, so that'd be that. Lunch. I think I really like pizza a lot.
Mm.
So maybe hamburgers. And then for dinner, it would be like a rare steak and then vegetables and French baguette and big mother of a salad with blue cheese dressing on and a really a really strong, maybe Cabernet.
There you go.
Nasty but not pretentious.
So you're saying you're a pizza fan. Have you had New Haven, Connecticut pizza before?
I've been there before.
Well, Sally's and Pepe's there too, because New Haven is actually famous for its pizza.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Have you ever heard the term? Yeah, you know how some places will say "a pizza," like they have the A in front of the pizza. Have you ever seen that? That started in New Haven apparently, but the two famous feuds are Sally's and Pepe's, and they're on the same street. They're on Worcester Street in New Haven. They've both been there since the early 1900s. But it's kind of like we were saying with the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. Like you're either a Sally's person or a Pepe's person. But if you're ever in that area, I would highly recommend, if you're a pizza guy, I mean, those two places are, world renowned for their pizza.
Oh, I think yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah.
Are there any good pizza spots near where you are?
Yeah, there's a couple of places I kind of like, but I think the problem is with pizza. There are great pizza's great, but it's sort of a diminishing returns that like bad frozen pizza is still great. That's right. And after that, it continues a little bit, but I just I love it.
Do you have a favorite topping?
I love anchovies. I really like anchovies a lot, but it's hard to find.
You'll just get a plain anchovy pizza?
No, but it adds, anchovies adds to almost every kind of pizza that you can get, except pizza that has maybe pineapple on it. Yeah.
Mm. How
Yeah.
about as for like a snack? What's your go-to snack food if you can have anything you want?
I really, really like M&Ms and I like cookies,
Nice.
really hard cookies, hard cookies,
Peanut or just regular M&Ms?
regular M&Ms. Yeah. Yeah.
Regular, yeah. Nice. Awesome. I
M&Ms
like
and
that.
popcorn. We eat a lot of that, things like that. Yeah.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah.
Well, I think, yeah. Do you have a favorite restaurant?
Well, I really used to like Lebec Finn in Philadelphia before it went out of business. But the thing is, once you get married, my wife is just such an amazing cook, and she's also extremely, extremely frugal. You know,
Mm,
so once you marry someone who's super frugal, is a really great cook, she's like, man, why go out? Let's have people over. And
that's great.
so and so we tend to not go out very much, unless we're on vacation. Then we'll try to find some place that's really, really weird, like someplace that's really memorable. And our rule of thumb is, if every other night we can eat at a place that's hugely memorable, that's 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 what we're aiming for, rather than go to a good place every night.
Yeah,
So,
that's awesome. Do you have any like favorite meals that your wife makes?
I like it when she makes. She's Asian. She's from Taiwan, and so she loves to make Asian food. But
Oh, nice.
yeah, it's nice once a month.
Too spicy?
No, no. I mean, you have Asian food 6 times a week. It's just like, I think
Yeah, I guess I could see that. Yeah, I don't think I've ever eaten it that regularly, but I remember I used to think that about Indian food. I was like, I think I can eat Indian food every day. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, I'd probably get old at a certain point, you know.
yeah. I think that's true. So yeah. I don't know.
So are you still obviously not right now because of coronavirus, but are you still performing on saxophone?
Well, it's interesting. For a period of time, I was working on this kind of a cool project out in the Utah area, and I just joined a band there. It was like 5 days before this happened, and so
Oh,
that was
wow.
kind of a disappointment, because it was kind of a black keys sort of a band, and I think it'd be
Oh,
fun to be with. Yeah. But I haven't. I've been playing a lot at home, and I'm gonna, as soon as things start lifting, I'm gonna make an effort to find a new band.
yeah, it's a weird time. I feel nobody, I mean, all my musician friends, nobody's ever gone this long without playing gigs. I mean, we're going on like 4 months now, and some people are making little adjustments here and there. Like some people are starting to do like virtual performances, but that really only works if you're doing like a solo, like if you're doing solo piano or solo guitar or something like that. It's not really something you can do with multiple people because you have that slight delay whenever you're on Zoom or Skype or something. But it's going to be interesting to see, what everything's going to be like when we finally get out of this. I mean, these are unprecedented times.
Yeah, yeah. So why is that you like? Do you like the performance part of music? Do you like the camaraderie part of music? What is that gives you most of the magic when you go and
That's
play?
That's a great question. I mean, it's a combination of a lot of things. Obviously, I love performing. Jazz is my main style of music, so I love improvising and playing off of other musicians. But I also just have a very curious mind, so I love listening to songs and hearing something that catches my ear and going through and figuring it out, and figuring out the theory behind what's going on with it. And like within the past couple of years, I became obsessed with the Beach Boys. I started listening to some of their later stuff, and I was like, originally when I heard them, I was like, oh, that's just surf music. They did Surfing
Yeah,
USA. But then I heard like Pet Sounds and some of the later stuff,
yeah,
and it just blew my mind. So I'll go through a lot of stuff like that, be like, wow, those chords sound really cool. What's going on there? So combination of performing and also just a combination of just investigating stuff and just learning new stuff, you know?
yeah. Well, that's funny you say that too, because I just was listening to the song "Good Vibrations" the other day, and I just said, "How do they ever come up with this?" I mean, that's a
That's
great
crazy.
song, but it's just like how it doesn't follow any formula. Man, it's
Right.
so cool.
And that whole second half of the song, the gotta keep those loving good. That's like it's like a whole different tempo, a whole different key. Like everything just completely changes when that section comes in. But it's just, and then somehow they bring it back to the good vibrations part at the end. You're like, how did they pull this off?
Good. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. That's so
I
neat.
saw him a couple times. I saw him 3 times, Brian Wilson, because I saw. Did you see the movie that they made about him with John Cusack?
No, no, I didn't. I think I heard of
It
it
came
though.
out in 2015, I think. I would recommend it, but it just tells you the story of his life. And I don't know how much you know about him. I didn't know anything prior to seeing this movie, but I won't give too much away. But I would recommend watching the movie. But he's had one of the craziest lives of any musician I've ever heard. I mean, you're watching this movie and you can't even believe some of the stuff is real. And then so he's still alive. He's like 75 or 76
Yeah.
now, and just the fact that he's still with us is a miracle. So I was like, I got to see this guy while I still can. So I saw him 3 times within the past few years. 2 times he was just doing the Pet Sounds album, and then one year he did the Beach Boys Christmas album, like in December. So I saw that, and definitely doesn't sound like he used to. It's kind of like, I feel like when people see like Bob Dylan now, you're not really going to hear like great singing and stuff. You're just happy that he's there, you know. So it's kind of like that. But I would highly recommend that movie if you've never seen it. It's very eye opening.
I'll do it. I'll do that. I'll do that. I'll do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have seen
Um,
Bob Dylan a bunch of times. I've seen Beach Boys a bunch of times too. But Bob
oh,
Dylan's
you
like,
have seen the Beach Boys.
yeah, 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 yeah. Well, yeah, they for many years they're the big Fourth of July staple. So any time close to Fourth of July, they're playing 17 times a day. It seems.
That's wild. How many times have you seen them?
Maybe 3 or 4, maybe. It's always been Mike Love and Brian Wilson. I think has been there every single time. Yeah.
Really? What was the most recent year? Do you remember?
Yeah, well, probably 20 years ago, maybe.
Okay, because there was a little period where Brian wasn't touring with them at all, but I think that was in the 70s and some of the 80s, but I think, you know, the 90s and then the 2000s they did a little reunion tour.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but that's awesome. Well, I think that covers the majority of what I wanted to ask you. So I want to end on one thing. I was reading online that you also do stand-up comedy. Is this true?
Oh, yeah. You know, I've done a bunch of that, but I actually I did some actually probably about 4 months ago. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Do you have a
I don't get paid for it. It's just sort of like
right?
open at night where you go up there for 10 minutes until they start shooting at you.
Well, if you ever do that again, you got to let me know. Me and my friend would definitely come see that. That would be awesome.
Oh, it's
um,
fun. It's fun.
well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed this. And where can people find you? Do you have a website?
Yeah, I do. It's just brianwansink.com.
Awesome. And what are you doing? Are you still doing food research?
Yeah, doing some food research and doing some other research on helping people become better communicators, being better, just connected with other people. So
Yeah, the world needs that right now more than ever. It's too much division in the world right now.
That's
Great.
true. True.
Well, thank you so much, Brian. I really appreciate it. I
Absolutely.
really enjoyed the conversation, and maybe we can do it again sometime.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to. Hey, good luck getting back into the gigging and stuff. And it sounds like a cool thing you're doing with the camp this week. So
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, if I'm ever playing in your area, I'll let you know, and vice versa. Let me know if you're ever playing. I would love to come check you guys out.
yeah, well, neat. I used to go to a jazz camp a jazz improv camp by Jimmy Ebersol in Westfield State College, which isn't far from where you're at. In
Yeah.
Massachusetts. Yeah.
So you're in? Are you more northern New York, like going towards Canada?
Yeah, near Syracuse. Yeah, it's like right
Okay.
in the middle of the state. Yeah.
That's a really nice area. I remember driving through there to go to Toronto, to go to Niagara Falls. That's a beautiful area.
Yeah, it's crazy beautiful. Every day I'm just stunned. Yeah.
Is that the area that has like that underground tunnel? You know what I'm talking about? When you're driving towards Niagara Falls, there's like this really rural area with all these solar panels, and there's like an underground tunnel that you can go through. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of those in Pennsylvania, like near Allentown, near Bethlehem. So those might be the tunnels you're thinking of, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd
Yeah.
be easy to confuse because it's only 2 or 3 hours away. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Brian. Again, I
Yeah,
really
thank
appreciate
you.
it.
That's cool. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely.
All right. Bye-bye.